Episode 9, New to Hill Country, the podcast that takes you through Hill Country, Texas, lets you get to know some other people living here, lets you know what's going on with their work, their business, and helps you find opportunities for yourself. I'm your host, Michael Hines. I just moved to Hill Country back in October of 2019. Me and my wife are getting to know a lot of new people, and we're really just sitting down and recording our experiences doing that. Today we're talking to Jimmy White of Wusupcheffy. Jimmy's going to talk a lot about food and different places that he's worked over the span of his lifetime, in many different parts of the country. Before we get to that, just want to mention our two show sponsors. First sponsor is SBG Texas. SBG Texas is a premier martial arts and yoga studio located in New Braunfels, Texas. I am the head coach there. We teach adults, we teach kids. We go way beyond what typical martial arts training entails. We really teach mindset and how to be less stressed and experience life in a deeper dimension. Our other sponsor is LMNT. LMNT is an electrolyte mix developed by Elemental Labs in conjunction with Rob Wolf. We, my wife and I, both use this product all the time. It's just such a great way to get your hydration needs met without drinking a bunch of garbage, a bunch of caffeine that you maybe don't need, a bunch of sugar that you definitely don't want. Just throwing a little mix and 16 ounces of water and boom, you're hydrated. You're not hanging around the water cooler trying to drink like 15 glasses. You're at a point of satiety right away. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it with Jimmy. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, and we're live. All right, welcome to the show. Welcome back for everyone. Today we're talking to Jimmy White. Jimmy, I call you Jimmy. Would you prefer to go by James or Jimmy?
Nah, Jimmy. Like for years, Jim and stuff, and then I finally realized, like when I got people, it was always Jim and Jimmy because I'm the third. I'm James Bernard White the third. So it was always Big Jim, Little Jim, and then it was always my dad was Jim, I was Jimmy. So then when I got older, I was kind of like, well, you got to be a Jim when you get older. So I switched over to Jim for, about 20 years. And then finally I started realizing, like, I'm just not a Jim. Like, I'm a Jimmy. It fits who I am better. Like, when people say Jim, I almost go like, oh, my dad? So, no, it's Jimmy. That's what I like. That's who I am.
I understand.
Most people actually, as you hang around, as it's easy because people know other Jims and Jimmys, most people just wind up calling me Chef. I mean, literally, like, most of my career, it's just been easiest to just, oh, Chef, what are you doing? And then later it just kind of goes on. Like, other than my immediate family, everybody pretty much calls me Chef or Cheffy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because your business is Wusupcheffy. So
right. Yeah.
Okay. Now that makes more sense to me. All right, cool. So yeah, Jimmy is a chef, and we're going to talk to him today. Just going to start off like we always do. Just are you from Hill Country or did you move here? Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not from Texas. So I couldn't be any happier to be in Texas. I was originally born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and spent like the first 18 years there. Lived at my parents' house and all that. And then I went right out of high school. I went to school at the Culinary Institute of America, which is in Hyde Park, New York. So I lived up in New York, upstate New York, for 2 years. And I got back and I did the East Coast thing for a while. I worked at a bunch of the really posh, excellent restaurants in Philadelphia right after I got out. And then I worked for Marriott, and then Marriott moved me from Philadelphia to New Orleans. And I lived in New Orleans, and then Marriott moved me from New Orleans to Albuquerque. And I spent time in Albuquerque, and then Marriott moved me from Albuquerque to Detroit, Michigan. So we did that, and then I had pretty much had enough of the corporate world at that point. And so I took a job at an amazing dude ranch in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Like, we could do a whole segment on this dude ranch. It was everything you've seen in the movies with like 5-star food. It was pretty cool. So I did that. And then after like a year of that, my wife and I were pretty much like, we got to do our own thing. We just couldn't take orders from people anymore. We were like, I can't sit here at one more meeting and like listen to what I did wrong, and they don't even know what my job is. So we scraped up our pennies, and she was pregnant at the time, and we bought our first restaurant. And that was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and that's where I met Annette, and we got married there. And so then we had our own restaurants there for years and years and years. And then we kind of picked up and hit Arizona for a while. We worked at the largest floating restaurant in the world. We ran that for a couple of seasons, and then left there, went back to Albuquerque. And then my son's in the military, and he was in Afghanistan, and like we didn't get to see him for several months before he left, and he was there for 9 months. And his mom and I pretty much said, like, this isn't cool, man. Like, we only have this one kid. I don't really like not seeing him for a year. So let's see if we can't get to where he's out of. So we moved here to New Braunfels and like packed up everything, came here without jobs and the whole bit, his mom and I. And we were lucky enough. We actually took a couple jobs that didn't work out. My son was still in Afghanistan, and he just called me and said, dude, just move in with, go up there and move in with her. So we did. And it didn't take us too long before we opened up the place, which was Underground Pizza, and we had that here for 3 years, and that was just a mind-boggling, amazing experience for us and for the community. And unfortunately, just due to some partnership problems and whatnot, we had to that down. And since then, I've been doing Wusupcheffy, which is like my personal chef consultation services, and I do prep meals and stuff for people. But much more I'm really looking to do more of like personal work and work with smaller groups than feeding the multitudes anymore at this point in my career.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that was a lot. Let's. Yeah, sorry.
No, I've been around a horn. You know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I mean, you lay that out, and most people go like, "Yeah, right." And I'm like, "Well, I'm almost 60, so yeah, I have done all that."
Oh yeah, wow. So there's a few things I want to cycle back through. I think you told either I read it or you told me. Did you meet your wife? Is she a chef too? You guys were working together or something like that?
She was actually the director of catering at Marriott when we met. And it's one of those crazy stories. I literally I walked in her office at part of Marriott back then. You had an interview with the executive committee, and they took me around the executive committee, and she was part of it. And I walked into her office and I sat down, and I like literally fell in love. I sat there and I was like, wow, this is insane. Like, she was talking and I couldn't like even hear what she was saying. And it wasn't like a physical thing. It was just like, everything about I gotta get to know this girl more. My God. And so and we've been married for 31 years. So It's one of those things where like, you know, it does happen, and it's like I said, not that it hasn't been a lot of work. I mean, everybody, you know, when they ask what's the secret to 30 years of marriage, it's like you treat it like anything else. You treat it like it's your best friend. I think most best friends that you have for a lifetime, there's times where you are best friends, not best friends, but all through it, there's just a lot of work involved to keep that there. And that's what's happened with us. And so, yeah, we're absolutely best friends. She's become an incredibly talented chef. There are things that she does better than I do. And she's working elsewhere right now while we're kind of putting this business together that we're doing. But as soon as possible, she'll be back in because we're just thick as thieves. She and I, we just love working together.
I see. I'm kind of curious about the love at first sight. How was it on her end? What's her side of the story? Or maybe we have to get her on to talk about it.
She literally, after it was done, they have meetings and they ask, like, you know, they get together as an executive committee and talk about the person that they're thinking about bringing in. She literally told the general manager, why are you hiring that child? Because, I mean, at that time I was 26, 27, and I looked like I was 21. And she literally was like, he can't run a hotel. She told the general manager, he can't run a hotel. He's a kid. And he was like, no, he's not a kid, and you need to read his resume, and he'll be here through tomorrow. You should sit and talk to him. So she did. She called me up and said, hey, so, like, come up here and talk without 1,000 people around. So we went up and talked, and, like, the more I got to know her, the more interested I just was in her as a person. She was a great director of catering. I mean, like, she was the best director of catering I ever worked with. But it wasn't long when we got together as a couple, and then when we started our own business, that she realized that she likes to be on the creative side. She likes to cook, too, and she handles more of the front of the house stuff. But yeah, she's a talented cook for sure.
Awesome. And then it sounds like a number of times you were in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Is that right?
Yeah, I was there for 19 years. I was born there, and then we moved. We actually went to join him. He was working as a bartender and a cook at that floating restaurant in Arizona, actually at Lake Powell. And he got ticked off one day. The boss was like yelling at him and stuff. And he came up to me. He's like, why are you standing there smirking? And he's like, because you don't even know how to run a place, man. He's like, oh, what are you, an expert? He goes, I might not be an expert, but my dad is. And this is a joke here, dude. And he was like, well, maybe you ought to call your dad and have him come in here. And he was like, hand him a card. He says, here's his phone number. You call him. And so he did. He called me up and said, this is a disaster here. And I'm tired of your son telling me I don't know what I'm doing. Can you come down? And so I interviewed and I got hired.
Nice. Interesting.
Yep. Huh. So we went down there with him. And then, of course, after that is when he went in the military. And then even when we moved to Texas here to be closer to him, I don't think it was 6 months, and he got transferred to Las Vegas.
I see.
Yeah. And I still rent his house. I mean, in fact, his guy with this big lockdown, his wife has been here with us. This is her house. She's been here with us for the last 6 weeks because he was here. They live in Okinawa now. And so he was here going to school when all this hit, and she had come here to be with him so she could spend a couple months with him with their brand new baby. And he got sent back immediately. And then before she could even bust a move, everything got caught with this virus. And so she's just been here waiting till it's okay for her to head back to Japan. And she's probably facing maybe 2 weeks in Japan, another 2 weeks quarantine in Okinawa when she gets back. So we'll see. But she got caught on the poop end of the stick with this whole thing. Although it's been great for me because I got to spend time with this brand new grandson. It's just been life-changing.
Sure. Can understand that. That's awesome. So
yeah, pretty cool.
So when you were in Albuquerque, I just know this from talking to you. That's when you met Greg Jackson.
Yeah.
Coach, yeah. Who is for listeners who don't know who Greg Jackson is? Greg Jackson is quite a famous mixed martial arts coach based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. He's the coach of John Jones, if that helps, and he's got a number of champions that have come out of his gym in men's and women's. And I just happen to know that Jimmy had met him and got to know him, I guess, fairly well. So how did you guys meet? How did that go down? So
it's funny. I think most people who get involved in MMA at one point get like incredibly humbled somehow.
Okay.
So I had a really good friend of mine who was a special operator, retired special operator, SWAT officer for Albuquerque. And he came over and he had a little kid, same age as my son and his wife. We all hung out together and stuff. So we were hanging out and he's like, dude, what do you know about like rolling? I'm like, rolling what? You're a cop. You talking about rolling a dude? He goes, no, man, rolling, like grappling. I'm like, I don't know about anything about grappling. He goes, let me show you. So he pushes the couch back in my living room and stuff and proceeds, like in a nice way. I never got hurt, but like proceeded to treat me like a rag doll for 30 minutes. Like I couldn't do anything. And like the more I struggled, the more frustrating it was. I mean, like I'd never been manhandled like that in my whole life. So he left, and like the next morning I woke up and I was like on the phone to Jackson's because he had told me where he was studying currently. He had already had a black belt and other stuff and all, but that's where he was studying. I got on the phone and I was like, hey, dude, I need to come down and talk to you. So I shot down there that next day and got to talking with Greg, and he was like, well, you don't really recognize me because I'm quiet, but I've been coming in your restaurant and stuff. He's like, you want to just do a trade? Because like I never had. He was living at the dojo at that time. He was actually living in the dojo, like, and I don't mean there was like an ensuite. I mean, he was just like sleeping in the dojo. So he's like, I never get enough food. And I was like, you can come in and eat as many times a day as you want, and I'll take a private every day. And he was like, awesome. So we were literally trading meatball sandwiches for private lessons when we first started.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
And where was that at? What year would that have been then? What, like...
Oh, man. So my kid, I'm going to get as close as I can. My kid was born in 91. I'm going to say like maybe 96, 97 in that range because he was like a young kid. I'm trying to think of how young he was playing in the house that night. And then when I got started in there, like I'm not even checking that date for the restaurant. I'm just going by like he was born in 91 and I'm saying he's 5 or 6. So yeah, like mid-late 90s.
Okay. So by that time,
like Rashad, just for a checkpoint, like Rashad Evans was totally currently training out of that gym and fighting for the world championship at that time. So that was the time period. Rashad was the champion.
Huh. Okay.
But I was gone from the whole scene before the Jones controversy happened with Rashad. I was already like separated from the gym and really not like involved anymore.
I see. Huh. Interesting.
So like my kid got to roll with John Jones. They do like circle of death thing where, everybody in the gym pretty much just gets in a giant circle, and one by one you go in and you go until the person in the center taps. And they do that like for stamina for the guy. Mm-hmm. So like, yeah, my son got to roll with John Jones and a bunch of the other like leading fighters in the UFC. And yeah, I think he was very proud. He lasted like 6 seconds with Jones before Jones tapped him. So he was like totally thrilled. He said people were going like 2 seconds and getting tapped.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Interesting. Yeah, Jones is a machine.
Yeah, he's an animal. For sure, he's an animal. Yeah. I've not got to see him live in person. He was not at the gym. In fact, we were in a strip mall at that time. All kinds of funny stories, man. We had back in the day with Jackson's, we had like a puke rag where if you got sick, like if you were gonna get sick, you just picked up this same towel on the way out, and like after you were sick, you cleaned up your face and everything, and like everybody used the same towel. And there was the bloody tree. If you got your nose broke or like it was just dripping, you'd go right outside. There was this one tree where you would stand and you'd let it drip on the tree and stuff. It was really like old school Rocky Balboa training back then. It was pretty neat. It was really neat.
Yeah. Huh. Fun. Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Sounds
for sure.
Sounds really intense in a way that it's totally not the way I run a gym, but like it's fun in its own way. I find. Well,
that's the interesting thing is like I kind of got to see that whole incarnation, and now I have the privilege of getting to watch you open here, and it's like such a difference. Like I thought that was all cool back then, but now I'm so into the professionalism, the way you run your place, the way it's like the honor and the bowing and like the respect to the art and everything. That's what has me like just fired up. And this whole city needs to be just excited about that you came in just because of the philosophies that you guys carry and your professionalism in the organization and the whole bit. So I hope it lights up. I know it's going to light up because there's nothing like you in town. So very exciting times for New Braunfels.
I appreciate it. I appreciate all the high praise. I'll do my best to live up to it.
It's great. No, it's great. I'm like I said, I'm not a kid and I'm all lit up about this whole thing. So it's pretty exciting.
Well, I greatly appreciate those kind words. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. And well, actually, one thing I didn't get around to was just what's your impression of the hill country in general? Like, of like, what do you love about this area? And if I were new to the area, what should I be checking out? Like, what should I be getting involved with?
I think a lot of people that come here and like land here from somewhere else, and I don't mean moving like from Austin or San Antonio or Seguin or somewhere, but like they get here and I don't think they understand how special New Braunfels is because that's all they know is what they saw right away when they got here. Like you almost have to go to like other areas around to see how unique New Braunfels is. Like we're still pretty small here. We have like, if you want to be small and like little town, you can find that real easy here in New Braunfels. I mean, super easy. And yet we're completely metropolitan. You're a 15-minute drive from major entertainment centers. You're a 40-minute drive from one of the music meccas of the United States, one of the most historic cities in the United States, San Antonio. I mean, we're like so perfectly located. And then you throw in like the rivers, so you have all the water stuff to do. So like I'm an ocean guy. I'm literally like just a surfer between waves my whole life. And like you got the rivers and you have all kinds of water activities. So I think it's a unique little gem that you almost have to step back from a little bit and look and go, wow, this is really cool. Or another thing, like if people start to look around and go, okay, where would be a cooler place to live? I'd challenge you right now. I would challenge you to find a neater, better place with better attitude and nicer people than New Braunfels, Texas right now at this place and time.
Yeah, it would be hard to. I think it's hard to meet that challenge for sure.
Well, it is. I mean, if you can knock down $500,000 a year, like, I mean, if I became independently wealthy tomorrow, I would absolutely have a condo, like either in La Jolla or in San Diego. But I mean, you're talking about to actually live there, the kind of money that you need. I wouldn't trade the lifestyle here full time for the lifestyle there. So it's one of those where, like, yeah, you can come up with examples of where it might be slicker, but it's not for real lifestyle, not like for raising kids and having grandkids come to visit. I mean, the weather and everything associated with it, it's just, and we've been in a position several times, especially right when we sold the pizza place, where we were kind of like, look, my kid lives in Japan. So pretty much anywhere I go is going to be closer to where he is. So we looked around and tried to find a place. We looked pretty heavily into Port and that area down in there, and we just couldn't find any place that offered more than New Braunfels, Texas.
I see.
So, I mean, like I said, anybody who doesn't love it here, I would challenge you, either been here for too long or you need to step back and try to replicate it somewhere else, because you're going to find to replicate this lifestyle, you're going to be paying 2 to 3 times as much for rent and for all the other amenities that you do right here in New Braunfels.
Yeah, I mean, once you start factoring in all that stuff, I mean, I've been to Hawaii, I've been to Maui twice, and it's like, it's really pretty cool in its own way. The other side of Maui is like, I was kind of hanging out with people that were working there a little bit, and they were just like, it's so expensive. They were just like, it's crushingly expensive. Like, I have zero in savings. I cannot save. It's not possible, and they were kind of complaining about just getting gouged on kind of everything, because it's almost I felt like Maui is, especially size and population wise, it's sort of a small town in its own way. But then,
other than the massive expansion for like the hotels and stuff, it's still fairly quaint in that whole area. All the islands are still fairly quaint.
Right. But then you also have to, any type of like modern goods have to be shipped in. So the price tag goes way up on everything. That's what I kept hearing. So, I don't know. It was, but yeah.
My kids love Okinawa. Don't get me wrong. And my son's another. So he digs being there, but like, he's not upset about, when he's going to be done his 4 years there. Because like you said, little things like, they get here and the first thing his wife wants to do is go to Target. Because there's and even like the Target, you spend a massive amount of time in Korea. I would imagine it's probably fairly the same. Even like what at their Target-like stores, they don't buy the same stuff that we do.
They don't have the same
like, even
stuff,
the size of the clothing is like totally different. So you may find something you like and you're like, and the biggest I could find would be an American extra small. So I mean, things like that where I think there's places that are great to visit and maybe even go live for a spell. But as far as like where I want to actually have my address be, probably, I don't know, you can never say the rest of your life, but I like having a New Braunfels address. I think it's got some cachet. I think I think when you even say that you live in Texas and that you like Texas, it ticks off just the right people that I like to be irritated with me as far as, just like our freedoms and stuff go. Texas is definitely one of the more like, hey, look, we let people do their thing. We're open space. So even that part about it, I like being in Texas.
Sure. Yeah, no, I understand. Well, let's talk about Wusupcheffy. Like, tell me about it and kind of what are your goals with it?
So, like, Wusupcheffy is kind of, I kind of let it make itself. I was very interested in creating an organic business when I got done. So I actually went and started working with my next door neighbor at a glass company because, I don't know, I got working hands. Like, and I'm not independently wealthy. I needed a paycheck. So I worked with them, and that was kind of cool. And in the meanwhile, I started just, like, making some prep meals for people and just cooking for friends and stuff, not charging anybody anything. And that just kind of grew, and so I needed a legitimate place to do that. You can't cook out of your home, so I created what's called pod cooking. So what I do is I get a group of people together, and then we use one home, and they basically hire me as like the consultant to come in and help them make a bunch of prep meals for themselves. And, they can, if they want me to go get the food flat rate, so if they want me to go do all the shopping and then get it there, I mean, it still comes out about in the same exact price range as most prep meal companies, except you have a lot more input into it because you choose what foods you want to make. You can figure out the portions that you want, or you can just say to me like, hey, you know what, dude, we're going to all watch football while you do this. And I'll be like, thumbs up. Awesome. I get paid by the hour. Have fun. So any way that it works out, it's a business that's booming and thriving on its own. It's booming to the point where now I'm going to have to get somewhere, an actual single out kitchen somewhere. I'm not going to do brick and mortar, but I'm going to have to get a production facility to knock these meals out because it's just gotten to be where it's got, even with in the midst of all this, it's still doing really well and popular. And I'm having to turn away a lot of guests because I can't do it through the pod system because it's gotten too popular. So we're looking for a place to hang our hat, and we'll do that. And of course we have all the other chef services that I do, but I kind of keep it like it's a one-man show. It's myself. I have a couple people that I work with as far as like if you need a server or if I need help with cooking something. But I'm really at this point in my life and my career just trying to focus on my talents as a chef that make me unique and finding a community of people who like those services and use them in and out throughout the year to their best advantage and how they like. That's kind of what we're doing. And I'll eventually develop a large enough group of people where if I don't make any meals for somebody for 6 or 8 months, I'm not really going to worry about it because other people come into the business. It's very much like a successful dojo. You know, you're not hanging your crepe on like, oh my God, a guy moved away. It's like guys move in, guys move out. And that's kind of what we're going to do with this is like, we'll have a base of business. And, you know, for example, what we're going to do is like with your dojo is we'll get the group together there and they can either be like kind of when I say sponsored, I only mean like advice given, but like if a particular gym has a type of food that they recommend and they can get enough people in their pod, we can knock out prep meals by their specificity. Specificity. There it is. So it's a really interesting thing I'm doing. But like I said, most and foremost, I'm just really wanting to share my talents. I love doing stuff like this with you and other podcasts with people and talking about what I've been doing. I've been doing the same thing for 40 years. I've been a professional paid chef for 40 years. I mean, I'd almost have to be like a brain donor to not have a lot of great stories and interesting factoids about food. So that's kind of what I like to do. I love to save people time and money at the grocery store. We do a whole thing called the Grocery Guru, which is where we take either single people or groups to the grocery store and we walk them around and help them to either, if they're clueless, we teach them how to shop. If they, and whatever level, I've gone with some people who were very, very good shoppers, but they didn't really know a ton about like cuts and grades of meats and things.
Sure.
So like during that, many of the people have gone to like an air chilled chicken versus a regular chicken, or they were buying organic and I talk them into air chilled. Or I move them out of breasts and into thighs for their main chick. Like that's the kind of thing. We walk around and specialize and look at the things that you're interested in. And like we do that. We've done it for years with young girls going off to college because so many people have recognized that, you know, they tend to put a bunch of weight on that first year of school.
Yep.
And it's because they have no idea how to cook. They know nothing about food. So we go and we give them tours. And I've even gone and given demonstrations and done cooking classes in dorm rooms for them to help to make sure that they're getting the proper nutrition, or at least that they have the knowledge and the capability to do it. You know, you can only lead the horse to water, but it's been super successful, and I love doing the Grocery Guru thing. It's really fun for me, and people get a really big kick out of it. And then another thing that we do, and this has become super popular, again, obviously during this whole COVID thing, it's been put on hold, but I go with one couple who's hosting the event. I'll go shopping with them. We'll do the shopping lesson there. Then we go back to their house, and they have a group meet them, 2 or 4 other people, and I'll knock out a fantastic meal for the 6 people and do a cooking class for them. And that's like a 4-hour exercise. So
That's
there's
awesome.
just lots of different ways you can customize how you use me. Like I said, at this point in my life, I really just want to try to I want to be able to earn a living so I can live here in New Braunfels in the style that I think is reasonable and that I like. And then the rest, I really just want to share what I know with other people and try to get people to have a passion for cooking. Because when you're not afraid of cooking and when you really understand the science of how food works, you're not afraid of it and it becomes your friend. And that's all I want to do. I just want people to get back to being friends with their friend. Because it's gone away. It has literally gone away in my lifetime. The being friends with your food and loving cooking it's turned into nothing but a holiday show-off session for people. And the rest of the year they eat garbage, but then on the holiday they throw down and they make the turducken that they saw on the Food Network and the this and that. No idea how it actually turned out. They just followed the instructions right to a T. And then the rest of the year they're eating junk. I want to change that. I want to change that.
Yeah, junk consumption of just kind of not real, I don't know, kind of highly processed food has just gone up dramatically for people. And even over the course of my own lifetime, and even just, you know, I spent 15 years in East Asia, and I watched processed food. I mean, plenty of processed food was there when I arrived, mind you, but I feel like I only watched it go up while I was there. Just
it's worldwide.
Increasing amounts. Yeah.
And, you know, it's an interesting story because you try to tell people things. They look at you like, yeah, whatever, dude. So sometimes you have to kind of come up with a story that seems so ludicrous that it's like, wow, if that's true, then that's pretty interesting. Cats. I did a bunch of work for the Food Network. And from that, I got a bunch of work on the Animal Planet, believe it or not. And I was brought in by this show to consult with the veterinarians and the trainers and all that in making interesting food for these animals. And much like I do with athletes also. I'll take trainers and develop recipes and things. Like they know what they want, but they're like, can you make this taste better? And I'm like, yes, that's what I do. So they brought me in to do that for the Animal Planet. So we were doing a thing for cats, and like one of the big red flags that came up. And if you think you can't get doctors for people to agree on anything, veterinarians are 50 times worse. Veterinarians don't agree on a thing. Nothing do they agree on. So the one common theme I kept seeing was like this: avoid tuna, avoid cooked tuna. So I dove into that a little bit, and it turns out that cats get a thing called tuna tongue, which is when they eat nothing. People think they're doing them a favor. Wealthy people tend to think this: oh, I'm going to give my cat nothing but canned tuna. Well, that tuna is so over the top flavorful for them, they get burnout, and they can't taste any other food. And the same thing is happening with humans. We're getting this hyper palatable food that is so over the top tasty that nothing else you eat, not only does it not taste good, it just doesn't sound good to start with. It just doesn't even sound good. Like, well, you know, we got those pork chops from last night, and I got some really beautiful sauerkraut and some broccoli. Or we could run over to Freddy's. Almost inevitably, every face that's been staring down while you're talking about that other food, as soon as you mention Freddy's, the heads come up. Oh, did you say Freddy's? It's just because it's so hyper palatable. It's just, it is. And I mean, and it is good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you can tell, like, McDonald's has tweaked every chemical and every salt and sugar and every item they have to make it as best as it can. So as a chef, when you're fighting that, it goes back to the tuna tongue. You almost have to tell people, like, you got to back off. Of course that other stuff you're eating sounds better and tastes better in a lot of ways. But you got to get to where, like, in fact, I'm doing a 30-day program right now with the Revolution. And
Healthy Rebellion, I think.
The Healthy Rebellion. Jeez.
Yeah.
Too much surfing lately. The Healthy Rebellion. So I'm doing like a...
Let me just briefly say what the Healthy Rebellion is for people that are listening and don't know. The Healthy Rebellion is a social media platform launched by Rob Wolf, and it's one of the more unique things out there that you can go onto his platform, and it's a social media platform where people are only really talking about improving their health, and it's a marvelous space. Like it's amazing because you can talk on that, and people are not snarky with you. Like I don't know, it's a beautiful thing that he's created community wise, where it's so like a bizarro world for the internet, because you can ask a question on there and you'll just get normal answers. Like you don't get like someone's like, why don't you know about that already? Or some like sort of, I rarely even encountered sarcasm in the community. But sorry, I'll let you go on, Jimmy. Sorry, I just wanted to plug that.
I love your input, and I'm pretty new to the whole thing. And I jumped in with this 30-day challenge, and like I said, I'm still learning about it. I'm knee deep in this right now with them. But the big point, that one of the things that clicked with me when they started talking was that some of this is palate fatigue they talk about. And it's basically tuna tongue is what it comes down to, is when you're eating nothing but these super hyper palatable, hyper digestible foods, nothing else tastes good because your mouth it's like hot sauce, right? I mean, everybody starts off with like one little dash of Tabasco. Well, nowadays, hot sauce is it's like ketchup in people's houses. Everybody has it. Everybody's using it. And it's like an acquired taste, and you build up to it. Well, it's the same with overly processed, overly flavored foods. Nobody starts off thinking that, you know, the hot wings at the Buffalo place are the greatest thing in the world. But next thing you know, every time you go, and you can't wait to get the next hotter phase. I can't wait to have that 10. I'm gonna master that 10. And it's just because we just burn out our taste buds. And so with this getting back to more of a natural approach, you know, even for me, because I've been on kind of like a year-long hiatus from really seriously watching what I eat. And so to go back to it, even within 10 days, like I had an apple yesterday, and it blew my mind. I was like, wow, that is a freaking good apple right there. And I don't think 10 days ago I would have thought that, because I was too knee deep into eating like regular stuff. So it's amazing and exciting how many things you can do to tweak yourself into much better health. That is really not that hard to do if you put any effort whatsoever.
On my end of things, like I started tweaking my diet. I guess it's now been about a year and a half or more. And it was something I never really paid much attention to. And just as someone who I'm pretty good. If I have a strict guideline, and I'll just stick to it. if it's kind of an everyday type program, I'm really good in those situations. If you told me to regulate on my own what I think is enough and what isn't enough, I'm not very good at that. So I'll
Right.
tend to
And
just
most
go
people
overboard.
aren't. You know,
Right.
it's a developed art. And even at that, and I'm a professional. Like that old expression, "Don't try this at home." I'm a professional.
Mm.
I measure things with my hands. That's what I do. And even
Mm.
me, when I'm not doing it for anybody else, obviously, like all the prep meals that I do, most especially if people are on really strict diets, I'm weighing things down to the gram. But I have lots of guys who are just like, the palmful method, especially my bodybuilders who are just like, yeah, more protein the better. I'm like, yeah, of course, it's out of my pocket. So, I'm like weighing their stuff. But even myself, and I do this all the time, I'll go back with mine and I'll put myself a plate together and I'll go, now let's weigh all that stuff. And inevitably, I'm over on everything. And it's because of all my years in business as a restaurateur. You don't ever want people to like walk away. Not at the level of the restaurants that I had. There are restaurants where people do walk away still completely hungry and they're fine with it. But the restaurants that I was doing, people needed to be satiated.
Sure.
So, you would always err as you were plating up. Obviously, if you're doing something that's portioned like duck breasts or whatever, the duck breasts are there. But things that you're portioning, like prime rib and stuff like that, I always tended to err on the heavy side. And I do that with myself. And so it's, I don't think people need to measure every drop of food they put in their face, especially once they get to a happy place. But it's always good to just double check yourself like once a week or once every couple of weeks just to make sure that your hand is still feeling that 4.5 ounces, not 6.5 ounces, especially if it's like a fatty piece of meat. And if it's chicken breast, well, whatever. But if it's a kind of a fattier piece of brisket that you've put into your budget for your calories and fat and everything for the day, and you're way off on your calculation, that's an error.
Sure. Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, no, I tend to always err. I'm sure I err high as well. But just what I was kind of thinking about in everything you're saying with the palate fatigue is I have sort of I've gone through the tunnel, so to speak. I've gotten to the light at the other end of the tunnel, and now it's sort of the opposite for me now. Now, if you take me to like a McDonald's or something, it tastes horrible to me. I'm so used to eating real food that when I try to just sort of enjoy something more processed for whatever reason, whatever context, I tend to feel like it tastes really, just really artificial to me. I don't know. Like it's
because it is artificial, unfortunately. I mean, the fact is that if you were to replicate that same exact burger with ingredients from your own home, it would be way better because,
Sure.
And I don't want to, one thing I don't want to ever get off on is like, I sent out my little menu this week and I did make a note that like all the pork that the people get through these prep meals that I do for them is all center cut pork loin. And I just want them to know that because like, it's the same piece of pork that you're getting at the fancy restaurant, the big double cut bone in pork chop for $50. So it's the same meat. And I only said that insofar as like ingredients matter. You can only, the only thing you can do with lousy ingredients is try to cover them up. And that's kind of what they've done at these places. Sugar makes everything taste better. I don't care if you have a burger at your house, if you ever want to have it be over the top, sprinkle a little bit of sugar on just the way you do salt. It'll blow your mind.
Sure.
And that's what they do. They're pushing all of the sensories to try to make up for the fact that, well, I mean, come on, you're getting a burger for $1. What do you think you're getting? Honestly, what do you really think you're getting for $1? So it's not like it's a big surprise, but that is how they do it. And one of the reasons why McDonald's fries are so fabulous is because they eat part of their shake mix is they use a super fine ground sugar. And it does spark those fries up. They are amazing. McDonald's fries right out of the fryer, like when you can't hardly put your fingers on them, are mind-blowing. They're good fries.
Sure.
So, but if it could be any worse for you, it's got some sugar too. So like you kind of have to get to the point. I mean, it's just so easy. Like it's so easy between air fryers, little fryers that they have now, and now like you can use coconut oil, so you can make wonderful fries for yourself at the house that aren't a cheat at all. If you've calculated in the carbs and you have that available in your day, and then the coconut oil, people are sprinkling coconut oil on their salads, so you can have amazing fries at your house, and it's not a cheat. The kind of stuff I impart to people. This is the kind of stuff that I teach people how to do, and I show them how to use. Like lots of people have those little fry babies at home, but they don't use them because they make a mess. They're hard to use. But if somebody teaches you the tricks on how to get the most out of your gadgets, then you're going to use them a lot more.
Sure. I've been actually meaning to get the air fryer. What I subscribe to your meals, and one of the meals that they've all been really good, but something I had this week that really I was like, how'd you do this? Because it looked really simple. Was you had some sweet potato fries, I think, and
Yeah.
oh my God, those were so good. Like, and what I don't know.
They're
I don't
just
want to
they're
make you give
literally
away the
just
secrets, but
no,
like
and that's
I
another
want the
thing is like
secrets. Okay.
you can't. I mean, other than like I have his exact recipe for that, but like there's a dude on the internet like does is figure out recipes for every piece of food that's ever been made. So like you can't own a recipe. I don't have a great fondness for chefs who like won't share their recipes because it's like, come on, dude, you can't copyright a recipe because all the other person has to do is change it from a pinch to 2 pinches of salt. Now it's their recipe.
Sure.
So like I'll share any recipes. All those are is just the sweet potatoes and cut them into wedges. Put them on a tray. I sprinkle them. I spray them. I have another thing that I do a lot of is I'll buy like one spray bottle. So you can buy like one thing full of olive oil, whatever, the little spritzers, and then just keep filling it up with your gallon of olive oil that you buy. So I tend to spritz as much as I can. And also, when you have those spritzers, the harder you press each time, the more of a mist you get. So if you can really squeeze it hard each time, you can really lightly mist those things. And then you just season them with whatever sounds great and throw them in your oven. That's it. They're just nicely roasted and seasoned. But I don't know. There's just something about, for some reason, people think because you hear the word prep meal, it has to be bland and boring. And it just doesn't. And that's, again, why I don't really want to drive my business into the thousands of meals at any point, because I want people to eat the food because it's food that I want to make. So now, like last week, we did the tuna tacos, and then you're part of a pod that we work out of, and so I know most of the people in that pod that we do. And I did the tuna tacos. Now, some people thought that they were too spicy. I personally thought they were mind-boggling. I was like, man, the way I judge everything, the way I do everything is I look at it as if I microwave them, and I keep back one of everything or two of everything, and my wife and I eat them during the week because we want to see how they are. So, next time we want to do that recipe, we could think, oh, maybe we would substitute that instead. And so, I heat them up just the way they're supposed to, and I always eat it, and I always think to myself, how would I feel if I went to a restaurant and got this for $15.95? And I don't take it out of the little plate or anything. I mean, I could put it on a plate and make it look fancy and stick the protein up. I mean, I'm eating it right out of the tub, and I think, how would I feel if this was just not a prep meal, if this was just a straight up entree at $15.95? And I'm happy with the stuff I do.
Sure.
I'm like, you know what? I'd be fine with that. And then on top of that, then you say to yourself, okay, but now I'm allowed to insult myself. Nobody else can. I go, then how's that for a prep meal? And that's when people just go, yeah, dude, that's stupid. And it's because I'm just cooking food for myself. This is the exact same food I'd be cooking for me. I'm just cooking it for more people. And that's exactly how I want it. I want people to use me because they enjoy my talents and my spicing and the way I do things, just like I hope that they would find. And if they don't like the way I do things, find another local chef, find another guy, and you can figure out that, hey, this guy cooks the way I like stuff, and then support him. You know what I mean? Like, always look. I always try to tell people, like, look as close as you can. My God, if you can find a store you like, 50 yards from your house, you're in heaven. There's nothing better than finding a close little local store that you love. And so, but try first. Like, try. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, I've tried all the restaurants in this town, and I have not found one that I'm willing to drop $200 in a night. It's okay if that's how you feel and you've tried. But to say that all you've ever been to is the chains, you haven't tried any local restaurants, I'm kind of like, I don't know, kind of like right now, like, I know everybody's got their opinion with this COVID thing, and I'm happy that everybody has it, but like, I don't really have a lot of time to listen to people who are still getting a paycheck. I'm much more interested in where people are thinking that have literally not gotten a paycheck for a month, because they're the ones that are sitting in it. And that's kind of how I feel about people who complain about that the mom and pop businesses have gone away. And it's like, well, how many mom and pop businesses do you support? Like, exclusively, like somebody who there'd have to be a reason why you would give that piece of business to someone else, because that's what it needs to go back to. I'm sorry. That's where we get back to where, like, and as owners, it's, again, our part to create a business that's so intriguing and interesting that people would not think about going somewhere else.
Sure.
So it's a symbiotic relationship. We're creating great businesses and they're getting great products by supporting local businesses. So, what's fun about this? Everything comes full circle, because I was harping this 30 years ago. 30 years ago, this was my exact same gripe. And I can remember going through this when the first breweries opened up in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
People were like, oh, I don't know, I drink my Bud Light. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. Give this guy a shot. He's like, he's put his, I call it, he put his cheese in the wind. I'm like, this guy mortgages his house to open this brewery. Go try it. And now, of course, if you were to say something bad about a local brewery, you'd be crucified. But back then I was like a weirdo. So I like watching how things are going. I like watching the cycles. Right now, my big thing I'm trying to really resurrect is people's passion for cooking food.
Well, I think you're well on your way to doing that. So just to reiterate with the people listening, if I wanted to sign up for Wusupcheffy, what do I need to do? Like, give me the action steps.
Best thing to do is just go. You can go to the website, which is wusupcheffy.com, or I'll just give out my straight up phone number. It's 505-250-3262. You can text me or you can call me and I'll explain how all this works. It's not really a sliding scale. One of the other projects I'm working on now is trying to get people to rethink outside the box their impression and what they're willing to pay for a professional chef, which is kind of it's a sore spot because, you know, it's one of the strange industries where you don't actually have to have a degree to call yourself a chef, like professionally on a resume, which is kind of rare. Most professions, you got to have some kind of formal education or a degree or a certificate or something. And I think because of that, some of it has like slipped away. But you know, when I did my pricing, and I'm not going to throw what I charge by the hour out there, but when I did it, I put it right in line with all the other professionals, masseuses, dental hygienists, you know, people who go to school for 9 months. You know, I went to school for 2 years and my school day was 12 hours a day. It wasn't like college now. It was, you went to the same class all day, every day until you were done with that class. And if you didn't pass that class, you didn't move on in the school. You were done. So I just think that people need to refocus, again, like I said, refocus on that passion for cooking and stop being afraid of cooking and stop trying to cook things like way over your head. And then you wind up, it's a disaster and you hate cooking again. Like, try to understand like the basics. If you can master an omelet, you've mastered breakfast and lunch. Because breakfast, you master a beautiful omelet, there's your breakfast. Lunch, don't fold it over, you got a frittata. Like, it's not rocket science, but know how to do it right, you know, and have fun with it. Like, go on the internet and look up how to make a perfect omelet. The great part about being a chef is there's a million ways to make an omelet. You can pick out the one you think is best and then learn how to do it right and then learn about your cookware. It's an amazing thing that if you'll just take the time and try to find some passion in this thing. And I guess where I'm really like, I scratch my head like I don't get it. I mean, everybody has to eat. You can't not eat. And so with that as a given, it is literally like cooking is literally one of the most universal things that you could do for yourself as a human to raise your level of existence. And yet people don't do it. People don't do it.
Well, hopefully some people listening now will catch all the spark and that passion in your voice, and hopefully that'll drive them to try some new things in the kitchen.
I think so. It's all fun, and we're going to start to do some stuff. I know that through the gym, we're going to start to do some postings and through other avenues, and then through like the Wusupcheffy thing. So you'll start to see some more. I'm not real big on doing like whole like cooking shows. I do more like segments. So you'll start seeing me popping out, you know, timely segments with different fruits and vegetables for the seasons, and and in talking to you and to some other folks, I think that our goal is to create just this wonderful community of people, or this tribe where we're all kind of bringing our expertise to the table and raising everybody's quality of life through each other's knowledge.
That's the goal.
And it's a super noble cause. And it's like, it's so easy to comprehend and understand. You wonder why more people aren't doing it, but it actually takes like a little bit of a commitment and it takes some integrity. Yep. And I think that that's the big issue there is the integrity. It's like, if you're going to tell these people that you're with them, you're kind of telling them up front that you're not just about the almighty dollar, that you're going to make decisions based on if this was like you were doing your whatever it is you're doing for folks, like that you do it the same way you do it for your family. And when people learn and they trust you in that, it's wonderful to have experiences. And I've had many of them in my life with businesses that like it became like family to me because I trusted them so much. And that's what I think you're trying to create, and that's what I'm trying to create. And I think we're just at a great spot in Texas right now for that whole thing to explode and become a reality for a lot of people.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. I think you nailed everything right there. So,
So we got, it's exciting times. It's exciting times. We're coming out of a kind of a really down slope. I think for Americans mentally, we're all a little shook up by all this. I don't care where your stand is on it. It certainly has become the biggest issue in my lifetime, if you look at it even just from the sheer numbers of it. And I think it would be easy to slump into even worse eating habits and poor, pitiful me. And I think like what your gym is offering and what I'm offering and lots of other people are offering is an alternative status like being shot out of a cannon, instead of coming out of it like with your head down. We're coming out of this going like, yep, this whole thing points at the direction that we're talking about. This whole thing would have been made so much better if we were all more locally based, if we were all supporting, if our community was strong. If this happens again in 2 years, based on the community that we're creating, we're going to be stronger and come out of this better for sure. So that's what I'm hoping, is that the people can come out of this with their heads held high and feel like, yeah, we can crush this. This is nothing for us. This is nothing that we can't crush and come out of this better off as Americans than we did going into it. And like I said, I'm not a kid. I'm no spring chicken. And I'm really excited about what's going on with your place and with Rob and what he's doing, and that he is here in town too. It's really exciting times. It really is. I think that was a line from the first Matrix, wasn't it? Ajax or whatever that one kid says to him. He says something about, I just learned Kung Fu, and he's like, exciting times. And I feel the same way. It's like these are for me, I'm not down at all. These are exciting times. I think we have the best of times ahead if we do it right.
I think so too. Well, Jimmy, it's been great to have you on the show, and we'll probably have you on the show again in the future. So look forward to talking with you some more, and look forward to getting back in the gym with you once all this once the shutdown eases up and everything.
I've been doing my stretching though. I've actually been, since I started Eternity Challenge, I've been walking the walk. I was pretty much crawling the crawl for the last few months and stuff. I haven't, again, interesting. We can talk about this at another time, how like I pretty much turned my diet into crap and was able to keep my weight exactly the same for like 9 months. So, but of course, my body composition changed, but it's just another one of those subjects like, please stop staring at the scale every 5 seconds. It's not the point. And we're all talking that. And I think that the more we do that, the more we're just going to get down the right road. So, super excited about all this. And like I said, if the people have questions, and as I start to meet more and more people at the gym, let's just make this a great time for us and look really forward and not so much back, and be talking about this in a few months and say what a great springboard that little hiccup was for us to move forward. So excited to be associated with you, my friend.
I agree. Well, take care, Jimmy. We hope to hear from you again soon.
It was great talking to you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, great.
God bless, man.